Third down and 20.
Auction drafts. So auction drafts, a lot of the strategies that I have implemented in redraft leagues and auction leagues do overlap, but there definitely is a difference. And the biggest difference is in auction leagues, I don't focus as heavily on stacking running backs. And the reason for that is the top running backs go for way more than the receivers. Even aside from maybe like the top two receivers, like guys like McCaffrey and Saquon, at least last year when I did play auction leagues, like they went for out of a $200 budget, 10 to 15 more than like a DeAndre Hopkins, right? And that matters because that 10 to 15 come middle to end of the draft can nab you a good player, right? That's the difference between nabbing like an Austin Eckler and a Nyheim Hines, at least a couple years ago, Austin Eckler, right? Like that's the difference. So like, I think the first thing that I want to say about auction leagues is if you're going to go for the big ticket items, you better be calculated about it. Because if you blow 130 of your budget on two players, you only got 70 left, and you're going to have to be super bargain buying for the rest of your team and pray that those two dudes you picked up are studs or you picked up the best bargain buys in your league, and a couple of them. So first things first is I set a price on all the big ticket items. If you want to completely not pay for someone, that's fine. Like, I agree with that. But in terms of the Saquon Barkleys and the Alvin Kamaras and stuff, unless you have a very specific strategy around, okay, I'm going to spend 120 on this. I know I can pick up these two dudes for a single dollar, this quarterback for $2, a couple other running backs for $10. That's fine, right? Go ahead. You can be all freaking MacGyver about it. But if you're just willy-nilly like, oh, I want Alvin Kamara, like 54 seems like a good price. No. Do a couple of mock drafts, see what some of these guys go for, and set a very reasonable price for them. So, like, let's say out of a $200 budget, Dalvin Cook, you said at $50 or like $52. Yeah, you're probably not going to get him for that. But I am going to bid all those players for my price tag every single time. And you will be surprised at some of the deals you get. Because me and Steve did an auction league a couple years ago where we did that with George Kittle. All the freaking auctions that we did, he was always going for like 32 to 30 to 35. We picked him up for 25. And this is not a scrub league. We paid I think we paid a decent amount of cash to be in that league. I forget exactly what it was. But like, we picked him up for 25 budget. And we were just like, what the hell just happened? Because we bid on every single player that we kind of liked for a price that was very fair. And you end up with some good deals doing that. And you don't overspend. So that's the biggest thing for auction leagues is don't be a freaking idiot and don't chase the bait. Just set a price tag on all the guys that you want. And yeah, you can go a little bit above for some dudes, but in auction leagues, it's more so about value than it is about stacking the players that you want.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, just reiterating, you have to do a couple mock drafts and auction leagues to get the hang of it, because it is very, I think it would be very tempting, especially if you have a $200 budget and you see like, oh, dude, like I could just blow this all right now and CMC is going to just carry me to the championship. No, I think you still go on the strategy where you can find, like, you can kind of moneyball it, really. You can find these budget guys and get people out of these and just have the most money in these mid rounds and just kind of bully people around on players that you really like.
Okay, so let's just go in the other ways that I differ from my redraft strategy in auctions, because obviously it's a completely different format. I actually really like targeting receivers in auction leagues. And the strategy that we've employed in all of our auction leagues that I absolutely love is you get the stable, they're going to produce wide receiver ones for way cheaper than the flashy wide receiver ones. So who am I talking about? Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, those guys. Because guys like D-Hop are always going to go for that top ticket wide receiver price. All these other
Mhm.
dudes go for 10 to 15 less. So I
Yeah.
want to, Cooper Cup is another one. Like, dude, I want to snag up all the veterans that everyone knows are going to produce, but for some reason will not pay the actual wide receiver one price for. We stack these guys, right? In our leagues, dude, like we picked up in every auction league like Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, and Cooper Cup, and we paid the price of like, for those three players. I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Okay, basically, instead of picking up two Alvin Kamara's for like 55 plus a pop, which is like, let's just say 115 a year budget, we picked up Cooper Cup, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans for a combined, let's just say like, generally somewhere between 25 to 35 a pop. So we paid like 90 to 100 for those guys. And then with the difference, we add a running back. So like
Mhm.
already we have double the amount of players that we have on our team, which is important because that means that we have more budget to spend on average for every single spot on our roster. And we still have a good team that we're confident in. It's not like we were just bargain buying and missed out on all the good players.
Right, and plus, like, those two stud players, like someone paid for, and you pick up three or four guys that are like just going to produce. Like, we're talking points wise here. I mean, I still think you're going to beat them because like you're just building a team that's just like you don't have the guy that's going to pop off for 40 points, but you have four of them that can easily get you 12.
Yeah, so what we do then, right? Once we have the established stud receivers that we like, that we picked up for cheaper than they really should go for, and you probably just want to set like a maximum price. I don't think setting a hard max is necessarily what I would do, but having like, okay, I'm not going to go pay 42 for a receiver because that four budget may actually become important. Like, I want to spend on three good ass, you have your list of really good receivers. I want to spend a combined 90 budget on these guys, right? And you have your list. Okay, I'll spend a little bit more on Keenan Allen than Cooper Cup, obviously, right? But you want to pick up
Mm-hmm.
just three, or I think we usually did three like solid ass receivers so that we have our receivers down pat. Like we spent basically half our budget making sure that our receiving core was filled out. And then with the other budget, we just pick up running back twos. We pick up all the RB2s. We don't overpay for them, but we spend 25 to 30 budget on RB2s, and we had massive success. A couple years ago, we picked up Aaron Jones for 25 budget. He ended up being
Yeah,
like the RB2 on the season. I mean, this year, like you said, Josh Jacobs, he's a great guy to go get because
yeah, you did get
realistically,
by.
he's got a great shot of being an RB1, and you get an extremely fair RB2 price on him. I haven't done any auction drafts, but I can basically assure you, given his ranking, that's what's going to happen. So all these
Mm-hmm.
dudes in that tier we were mentioning earlier, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, and then even down a little bit more like Mike Davis, Javonte Williams. Instead of spending $60 on a Kamara, I'm going to spend $60 and pick up two to three possible, all those dudes. Like I'll pick up a Josh Jacobs, I'll pick up a Miles Sanders, and then with the extra 7 fab, I'll go and pick up a Trey Sermon and a JD McKissick or my quarterback, right? Like I split one top ticket item into two RB2s and then depth.
Right.
Um okay, I think generally speaking, we kind of went over the running backs that we like. Stack RB2s, right? And then you kind of just play the value game at that point. Um Tight end, like I said, I don't really have a huge strategy for buying tight ends. It's just I set a price tag on them and I bid them up all to that price that seems fair to me. I think less so than the big ticket items. Like the big ticket items, I'm only going to pay a very fair price for, which I usually never get them. But I'm going to make sure you pay more than my fair price, right? Tight
Mm-hmm.
ends, I set a very fair market price for them. So like let's just say that George Kittle on average goes for like 35, somewhere between 30 to 35. I will bid him up to 32, no matter what. Right? You figure that out from doing a couple mocks or looking at auction data, whatever, right? I'm just going to bid him up to that price. If I get him, I'm very happy. I just got George Kittle, a top tight end, at a fair price. If not, okay, cool. Someone bid over a fair price for George Kittle. Simple as that. And if I don't get a tight end, well, then the entire league overpaid for tight ends. If I do, then I got one at a fair or under a fair price.
Right.
And then lastly, I think the only position we haven't touched on is quarterbacks. I want to pay at maximum $2 for my quarterback in a $200 budget. And it's the same thing with regular redraft, right? I'm picking them up at the back end. Dude, I think we picked up Russ when we did it a couple years ago, right? 2 years ago, we picked up Russell Wilson. It was funny. I think we did. I think we picked up Russell Wilson. And what's funny is that our backup quarterback was Lamar Jackson his second year. And he actually ended up being the QB1 that season, winning MVP.
Yeah.
Both of those guys, you could have got for $1 or $2. I think we bid $2 on Russell Wilson because I really wanted him. But you could have got Lamar Jackson that year for $1. You can get a QB1 for $1. You can.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And, usually I'll nominate the quarterback I want. Okay, yeah, maybe if you really want the guy, go ahead, pay $3 for him. But that's the very max. I'm not paying more than $3. Usually I like to do $2 because someone else will nominate the guy, and then I get the bid, so I'm at $2, and then you make them pay $3 if they really want him, right? So quarterbacks, new maximum is $3, not $2. Putting that down, writing that down.
I like that new max 3.
But yeah, I'm not paying more than $3. That's 1.5% of your budget, right?
Yeah.
Not going over that. I'm spending the rest on receivers, running backs, and tight ends, the things that actually matter.
Yeah, I want the meat of the team.
And then I'm not even sure, kickers and defense, I'm not spending any money on.
No shot.
I guess a $1 max, which is
yeah.
I might not even nominate them. I might just go in the waivers and pick them up after the draft is done. Unless I really want someone. Matters. Like I said, I think it matters more for defenses than it does for kickers, to be completely honest.
I agree.
All right, sorry, Steve. I kind of rambled on there for a while. I actually really like the auction format. Maybe we should do another one.
I'm down, dude. I did the auction was honestly probably the most fun draft I'd ever done.
It feels like you have more control in the auction leagues. It's because in redraft you can just get into a pick that you hate. I notoriously hate picking in the very middle. I hate pick 6. It's not fun because when you're picking in the very middle, it's like the other guys determine who you pick to a certain extent because you kind of always have to pick for value. Whereas if you have the turn, you can make the swing plays, right? You can, okay, I'm going to go running back, and all of a sudden there's 2 less running backs, or I'll go receiver, whatever, right? Whereas in the middle, it's okay, well, everyone just took running back in front of me. Maybe I should take a receiver. Okay, well, all these dudes just took receivers. Hey, maybe it's time for a running back, right?
Yeah, I do think the auction draft you have much more control, and you do control more of your team because you don't have to worry about that snake kind of draft and just getting boned.
Okay, last thing I want to talk about for auctions before we end the episode. Who are the bargain buys that you would go for? Quarterbacks we kind of already mentioned. I want to go for the meaty guys, like the running backs. I know we've mentioned a lot of these dudes because, generally speaking, there's a direct correlation between your draft pick and your auction value. But Ronald Jones is a dude that I really like. I think that he's a dude that's an RB2 priced as an RB3, and he's not a sexy RB2, but I mean, you can have him as your 4th running back with our auction strategy. You can probably pick him up for $10, and he's a phenomenal buy.
Put Damian Harris probably in that book too, then.
Yeah, I like some of the rookies, right, that we mentioned earlier. Trey Sermon, I think, is a fantastic buy that you can get for probably less than $5. Michael Carter might have a little more hype, and you may actually have to pay up for him, but it's nothing crazy. It's nothing groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, J.D. McKissick is a guy that you can probably pick up for like $1 or $2. I think is all right. Who else is there that I'm looking at? Everyone else, all these really lower end guys, I think you'd probably want to end up on waivers. But yeah, I guess we can get into some of the RB2s that we like. I really, maybe for next episode, I'll look at some auction data to get some more accurate prices on them. But I think that the highest valued running back that I would go in on is like a Nick Chubb. I think all the other
Yeah.
dudes I'd let the rest of the league have blow their money on. And I'm gonna nominate these dudes for the other guys to bid on. Like I'm gonna nominate them, immediately bid up to my slightly under fair price, let everyone else have them, and then bang, like I'll start bidding on Nick Chubb. And it's funny because I've been shitting on Joe Mixon, but if you can get him for a fair price, go. I don't discriminate, dude. I do a fair price for all these dudes, right? And just give me
Right.
them. Every RB2. I want a whole slew of RB2s on my team.
I think Nick Chubb would be a good buy because, like, obviously McCaffrey, Barkley, Dalvin. People are going to buy Eckler, Aaron Jones.
They're going to buy him at RB1 prices.
Yeah, so, like, if you can get Chubb at that cheaper RB1 price, I mean, that just sets you up because he's an absolute tank.
And then, the whole theory is that if you bid them up automatically to a slightly under fair price, you kind of make sure that everyone's paying fair price for all these assets. And if you end up for them, well, congratulations, you got a guy at slightly a discount, which is always fine in auction leagues, right? Then you just kind of maneuver your strategy a little bit. It's just generally speaking, you're not going to get those guys for those. I mean, sometimes it happens, but generally it doesn't. But like all these dudes, like if you go on Fantasy Pros, you look at tier 3 and tier 4, I'm snagging up all these dudes. Nick Chubb, Mixon, Akers, Gibson, Edwards-Helaire, Najee, DeAndre Swift. Even I don't like DeAndre Swift, and I'd bid on him. Chris Carson, J.K. Dobbins. Like, dude, I am just going to try and bargain buy any of these guys. And I'm not going to discriminate. I'm not going to say like, oh, well, Miles Sanders I don't like, so I'm not going to bid on him at all. Like, no, dude, if I can pick up Miles Sanders for under a fair market price, I will gladly do it.
I agree with that. Looking at the other tiers.
And I guess receivers, we can go into receivers before we end, that we would put in that tier 1. Like, so we mentioned a couple. Keenan Allen, I think Terry McLaurin is in there, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Mike Evans, Julio, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, Brandon Ayuk, Odell. Courtland Sutton's interesting. I think he's around there. Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, Deebo for me.
Just because you can pick him, he's more of like a bargain buy kind of a guy than like I'm going to pay a wide receiver 2 price for him. Everyone below them is like bargain buying to a certain extent.
About like a DJ Chark.
He's interesting. I think you could probably get him at a pretty good price, to be honest. But I'm not necessarily targeting him.
Yeah, I know. If he was just there, though.
Like Tyler Lockett's another guy that like I'd end up with if I got him for cheap. I'm not going to target him. Same thing with Juju. I'm not going to target him. I'll probably let someone else pay like an actual price for him. But like if I were to end up with my receiving core for like a fair price, somewhere between like $35 to $30 a pop, like DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods, I'd be pretty ecstatic. Maybe you don't want the stack with the Rams, but regardless, like DJ Moore, Mike Evans, and Cooper Kupp, I think that's a phenomenal receiving core. And you pick them all up for like relatively fair prices. If someone wants to bid them up, go ahead. I'll fill in with Brandon Ayuk. I'll fill in with Courtland Sutton. Tyler Boyd is probably like a phenomenal value get in these leagues to pick up as like your 4th receiver. Will Fuller, I think, is another phenomenal value buy. Brandon Cooks, like, dude, all these dudes, Jarvis Landry, like, and I think that that's the reason why I don't want to pay 120 value for two players is because you miss out on a whole slew of value deals, right?
Yeah.
You just don't have the budget to do it. You know, if you spend 120 on two players, you really can't afford spending 28 and
Well,
picking
yeah,
up Cooper
you
Cup.
just become strapped of
Yeah.
money from them, and you really can't do anything. You know, you miss out on so many
I
just
think
to have a couple
I
top
wonder what
dogs.
Calvin Ridley is going for.
I feel like he's gonna. I think it depends on the kind of league because, like the league we did, you know, we got Kittle at an amazing price, but I'm sure in some leagues he definitely went higher than just $25. You know, like I could see Calvin's some leagues you stealing him. I think it just depends how these first people go, and then but I don't know. What do you think you can get Calvin at 40, 45?
I'm not sure I'd pay that necessarily.
I
I'm
think
trying to
that's
see if
where
there's
I
an auction value sheet. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I found one. So Calvin Ridley, they say is, oh my god, 32 is the fair value
only
for Calvin Ridley.
32. Wow,
See, yeah,
I
that's
thought it
why.
would be
Like, okay,
somewhere.
so now that we have something to at least go off of, this is Fantasy Pros. Like Christian McCaffrey's value 71, Dalvin Cook 66, Derrick Henry 64, Kamara is 50, but he's probably going for more than that if Derrick
He's
Henry's
definitely
going
making
for
more.
64. But then, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna pick up D Hop or AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. Like, they have Mike Evans and Keenan Allen at 21 value. Terry
Mm,
McLaurin at 19 value. Dude,
that's
I will
crazy.
take that all day. Easy. Yeah, and
I
I'm
can't
not,
believe
dude, they
Calvin
have
was only
Josh Allen at
32.
$27. Kobe. I'm not paying 27 for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either. Just
I'm gonna,
because you're gonna find another guy, you know.
dude, they have Matt Stafford at 3. Yeah, I'll pay my 3 fab, my $3 for Matt Stafford and be chill, or my $2 for Matt Ryan. Gladly. Do you could pick up Deshaun Watson maybe? Just take the shot on Deshaun.
You could take the just because this probably be the lowest you could ever buy him at an auction draft.
But yeah, like Tyreek Hill, his value is at 42. Devontae
Mm,
Adams at 40. Those guys I'm probably staying away from. I would pick up Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley at 32 a pop. DeAndre Hopkins at 29 seems like too good to be true, to be honest. Like those three, I would definitely pick up to lead my receiving core and bid them up to that price 100%. They have like Travis Kelsey, like they have his fair value at 39. I'd bid him up to like 36, 37. And if someone wants
hmm
to pay more than that, go ahead. I think I'd rather pick up because they have George Kittle and Darren Waller at 29 and 27 respectively. I'd rather save the $10 and go for one of those guys.
Yeah, you easily could.
So I would bid those guys up to their fair price, probably a little bit more, like 30 a pop for them, maybe even more, like 31, 32. But yeah, Steve, I actually think I want to do an auction draft again with you. So we'll
Let's do it.
yeah,
Let's
maybe
find a
we'll
good league.
stream it. So
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, let's do that. We got to find a good league because the last league we were in was pretty good.